Many people wonder, if I have $1 million, how long will it last in retirement? Today, we're putting that question to the test. We'll cover how long $1 million lasts under different spending scenarios, the impact of inflation on your income needs, plus we stress test a portfolio against volatility, longevity, and spending surprises. Hi, I'm Molly Nelson here with Loren Merkle and Clint Huntrods. And guys, I'm excited to kind of stress test a portfolio. We haven't done that on this show, but the thing is, Loren, Clint, you guys do this every day when you're helping people build retirement plans.
It's an absolute necessity because the biggest fear of people going into retirement is how much money do I need to have? Am I going to run out of money before I run out of time? And how your portfolio is designed, the amount of risk, how it's going to react when things don't go well in the market is going to be a determining factor. That's going to be an important stress test. And then also, how much can I afford to take out and not have to worry about running out of money?
And so often people have a number in mind. Maybe it's $1 million, maybe it's $2 million, and they've had this number they've maybe heard from reading an article somewhere, but they don't necessarily know what that means specifically to them. So we're, always wanting to help families understand custom to them, custom on their Social Security, if they have a pension, their spending needs. How do we make sure that they're prepared for success in retirement?
And that number that they have is the number they want to save. But the number they want to spend is the unknown. That's the thing they don't know. And they also want to know, does the amount I save line up with the amount I'm going to spend? And that's where you have to really put some planning to the test.
Yeah, how much is it going to cost you to live the lifestyle that you want at point of retirement? But then there's also this thing called inflation, and we've all lived through an inflationary environment, so we know the impact that can have on our lifestyle. But what's the impact it's going to have on our portfolio 5, 10, 15 years into retirement? That's a big question mark for many folks as well.
And so often we see families that maybe have created their own spreadsheets or they've kind of built their plan out themselves. And we ask, well, what number did you use for inflation? And they say, you know what? I forgot entirely about that.
Yeah.
And that's something that you want to make sure you're accounting for, as well as growth of your assets. You need to put some sort of placeholder in there to anticipate what that could look like under different scenarios. And that's another one that's hard for families to kind of wrap their minds around, is what could that look like over time? And it's a really important number. Sometimes families think that just the assets they have are just going to start to come down in retirement. But when you apply that growth rate, it doesn't necessarily mean that you started $1 million and it just slowly whittles down across your retirement. As you have growth, as you start to think about a more comprehensive plan, things often look very different.
We're going to put a $1 million portfolio to the test right now. We've got 4 scenarios, but before the scenarios, here's a little bit of setup. This person is age 65, and really this could be an individual or a couple. The numbers for this hypothetical example would be the same either way. The beginning balance of the portfolio, $1 million. We're going to assume an annual inflation rate of 3%, and we're going to assume an investment return of 5%. Okay, guys, you ready?
Ready.
Got it.
I've got it. Okay, scenario number 1. For this 65-year-old, the withdrawal or spending or distribution, whatever word you like, $40,000 a year. So using those assumptions, the money lasts 36 years to age 100. Now, some people might be surprised by that because, Loren, if I'm doing my math right, which every time I start
Here's
math,
a test, we're going to see.
that's 4%, right?
It
so
is.
the 4, thank you. The 4% rule, which is one of those rules that people apply, I thought with that rule, your money was supposed to last forever. And though 100 is ambitious, the money runs out.
Yeah, that's
if that's the strategy.
Yeah, you're right. The 4% rule is one of those generic rules of thumb that has changed over the years. It has gone to 3%. Sometimes people say 5%, and that's why. But you're right. It starts at 4%, but then it gets so much more difficult than that, because it's really a $40,000 spending distribution that increases by 3%. And then the $1 million increases by 5% because there's a 5% growth.
Okay.
So we have to consider all of that over the long term in this particular case. But on the surface, it looks pretty good, right? You've saved $1 million. You've done a lot of hard work. $1 million at point of retirement is a lot of money. And you're saying you can live on $40,000 adjusted annually with inflation, and you will still have money left, or it'll run out at age 100. And for most people, that would feel very comfortable. There's a lot of things that don't go into that experience, though. That's just assuming a straight line 3% increase every year. What happens at age 85 and you need excess spend capability because you now need long-term care? Or what happens if other events in your life take place and that $40,000 adjusted with 3% inflation increase doesn't quite get it done? On the surface, it sounds really good and can offer some comfort, but we do know life happens and it's not always going to be a straight line adjustment with your real life.
Another thing that's really not factored in here is there's likely some sort of Social Security benefit, and we're really kind of setting that aside because it's going to be different for every individual or every family. So it's really going to be on top of whatever sort of guaranteed income streams this particular individual or family have. So they're maybe spending more than just the $40,000. You can add in Social Security, and that's really maybe the true amount that they would have to live on over this duration of their retirement.
I didn't do this math in my head. It was actually in my notes. But in case you're wondering what that applying inflation to this withdrawal strategy looks like, it'd be $62,000 at age 80 and $83,000 at age 90. Again, we used 3% annually.
So often families just aren't thinking about how much that impacts you when you look out for a really long retirement. So we know inflation could be a few percent per year, but when you stack that up over decades, it starts to really change how much maybe you're spending today as to what you would be spending 20, 25, 30 years down the road.
Okay, scenario number 2, 65-year-old. Now it's $50,000 a year. Now the money only lasts 26 years to age 90. The withdrawals grow to $77,000 by age 80 and $104,000 by age 90.
So you start out retirement taking $10,000 a year more instead of $40,000. We're at $50,000, and it runs out now 10 years sooner at age 90. So it's a significant difference. A lot of people at home still might be thinking, hey, if I still have money up and through my 80s and run out at 90, feel pretty good about it. Again, doesn't account for all the what ifs, but going into retirement, that might feel pretty comfortable.
And they maybe still have a home that they own, for example, and they're always going to have a place that they want to live, but there's maybe home equity that's really not a part of this. So they may be out of spendable assets, but they still may have other real estate or equity that's really not accounted for here. All things to think about just in that overall view.
Let's keep going. Scenario number 3, $60,000 a year is the withdrawal from this $1 million portfolio. Now an extra 10,000 years. Guys, the money only lasts 21 years to age 85.
Age 85, taking $60,000 out per year. We can already see a theme. We're not even into scenario 4 yet, but the theme is the amount that you take out is so important to how long this $1 million lasts. We do get that question quite a bit. How much can I afford to spend and still not run out of money? Or how much do I actually need to save to retire? And the biggest contributor to that answer is how much do you need to spend? How much do you need to take out monthly and annually? Because you can see already through the first 3 examples how big of a difference it makes on the back end of retirement.
And this is something we help families explore because sometimes they don't know how much they can spend in retirement. You know, how much can you spend, do the things that you want to do in retirement, but make sure you're not going to be in a place where you run out of money. And so we can help you explore what that looks like using these different scenarios and then starting to think about what your longer term goals look like. Maybe it isn't to spend down your assets and only have your home value. Maybe you have a certain number in mind that you want from a legacy standpoint. Well, then now we need to start to think about adjusting different expenses along the way to make sure we're on track for that.
Yeah, the legacy is an important consideration because already with scenario 3, they're at age 85, they don't have anything left from an investment portfolio to leave from a legacy standpoint. So if your considerations, your concerns, part of your retirement plan is you want to leave a meaningful legacy to your kids, grandkids, your loved ones, that will need to play into what your income plan is to make sure whenever you pass away, there is going to be something left over. And there's a lot of strategies that you can implement to help ensure that you can leave a meaningful legacy and still not have to worry about running out of money. And there's multiple strategies we can put into place for that.
Okay, scenario number 4, here it is. Let's say this person at age 65 took out $80,000 a year from the $1 million portfolio. Well, now the money only lasts 15 years to age 79.
Yeah, you can just see how impactful those extra dollars each year are, especially when you account for decades of growth on that inflation number. So this is starting to be an area where a family might be starting to get a little nervous and saying, well, I don't necessarily know if I can retire. So then we need to start to think about some different assumptions. Maybe we don't spend quite as much throughout the full duration and start to adjust from there. If that's something that they look at and they say, this is not comfortable to me, I don't like this, I don't have enough left over for all those what ifs that are going to come down the road. And so this is the information that families want to see, especially before they push that button that says, hey, I'm going to retire, turn off all my income, and then just live off of whatever it is that I have saved.
Yes, this is so important. That point is these are scenarios that we can run through prior to you retiring, prior to you making that decision to retire, because how powerful would it be for you to have this information as you lead up into your retirement years, as opposed to you retire, you start taking money out, and a couple years later, you start to notice that your $1 million isn't $1 million, and now you're really wondering, how long is this going to last? Did you make a mistake, not only in retiring, but also in the distribution methods that you're using? Having this knowledge going into retirement will help you accommodate your lifestyle needs, but also give you the confidence that you're not going to run out of money, and all of these decisions are going to feel way better.
We just put a $1 million to the test. It was eye-opening though, because just a small tweaks in spending really had a big impact later in retirement. But we should note, Loren, that spending in retirement is not often a straight line.
What we've noticed after decades of retirement planning is oftentimes people's experiences in retirement is not straight lined. And we've noticed there's 3 distinct phases that can be involved in your retirement. The first phase is the phase that you really think about the most as you're dreaming about retirement. We call that the go-go phase. That's when you're energetic, you just got off a 40-year career, you have all this newfound freedom of time, and you have probably more spending resources than what you've ever had before. And so it might take you more to live your lifestyle during those go-go years than what it will cost you during the next phase of your retirement, which we call the slow-go years. The slow-go years, you're kind of transitioning, maybe not as energetic. You're still on the move, doing things, having a good time, but your lifestyle just does not cost you the same as what the go-go years did. And then that third and final phase is what we call the no-go years, where you really don't have a lot of motivation to do a lot of activities that cost a lot of money. And so the 3 phases of retirement, the go-go, the slow-go, and the no-go, which oftentimes do come with different spending requirements. So we need to plan and can plan for that within your customized retirement plan.
And that's such an important thing as families start to transition into retirement. They've cut off that paycheck as they're used to be getting on a consistent basis. And now it's just those assets that they have saved, Social Security pension if they have one. And sometimes they're nervous to spend in those early years when they probably have the most health on their side, the most time they've had for a long time. And so when we help families with their advanced expense plans, they can start to see the impact of that. Maybe the first 10 to 15 years, they're going to spend more because they're planning on doing more travel and more trips now that they have more time on their side. We often, if you're retiring before 65, we want to include healthcare and some of those additional costs that you might be paying out of pocket for some of those open market plans, or maybe COBRA is higher than maybe you're used to before you get to that Medicare at age 65. So we can help build all of that in so you can see what healthcare looks like, you can see what those extra lifestyle things look like, and then maybe that trends down at a certain point. But we also want to stress test for the no-go years, which could include a higher expense. We don't necessarily want to spend more, but now maybe we have healthcare or long-term care expenses that have started to creep up. We want to plan for every distinct phase and help you see what that is. And that's how families are able to get the confidence to retire and then to go ahead and spend some of those dollars to do the things that they want to do.
And when you guys help people stress test portfolios at age 55 is better than waiting until 65. Another thing that you're kind of testing them against is the ups and downs of the market.
Because the ups and downs of the market are inevitable. They're going to happen. There's nothing you can do to control the markets. There's nothing we can do to control the markets. But there is a lot of control that you can have over your portfolio and how it reacts to the markets. But so many people, in fact, most people have no idea how their portfolio is going to react when we go through bad market scenarios. And then all of a sudden we're in a bad market scenario before we even know it. And then you're witnessing firsthand the devastation that can take place to your portfolio. Now, when you're working, not that big a deal. It's stressful. Nobody likes to see their portfolio go down, but I can tell you the stress is way more elevated when you're dependent upon that portfolio. And that's why sooner than later, prior to going to retirement, it's nice to stress test the portfolio. And we do this in a very simple way where going back, you have $1 million. What happens when we go through a bad scenario? Invested the way you're invested right now, that $1 million would lose to $100,000. Now you have $800,000 left. What does that do to your plan? What does that do to the ability to take income and still have income later down the road? Does it work? Does it not work? Do you feel comfortable, uncomfortable? Because then you can make changes. You can make adjustments to your portfolio. So when we go through bad times, it reacts appropriately to all metrics that you need in your plan instead of inappropriately.
And we want to plan for it. I mean, we know there's going to be a recession that's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. So let's make sure that that's not on the front edge of your retirement to a point where you're taking too much market risk, you get caught off guard, and that sequence of returns starts to cause trouble on the long-term growth of your portfolio. So that's something that we want to plan for before retirement. The sooner the better, to make sure you're on track. No matter what the market does, you can still retire with confidence and spend the way that you want to in those first few years of retirement.
Does this conversation have you thinking about your retirement savings differently? Maybe you're thinking not so much about what you have saved, but what you'll get to spend. And you might have questions. Well, a great place to get some answers is a Retire Ready call. You can schedule one by going to retirereadycall.com. And answers, Clint, are just what you gave a woman in a Retire Ready call recently about, she had some Social Security questions, right?
Yeah, she had a lot of questions, and what she found was that she just wasn't getting the answers from the investment advisor that she was working with that she was looking for. And on the verge of retirement, she just wanted more clarity around her plan. So she signed up for our email list, and we started to send her some information on some new legislation. And she got an email from Loren that talked about what that impact looks like in families' plans. And then I had a Retire Ready call with her. And in just a short amount of time, she said, I've gotten more information from Merkle Retirement Planning in the last really couple of days than I've gotten from decades of working with the investment advisor. And that just goes to show the importance of working with a retirement planner, as you've got more decisions that you're going to encounter in that transition to retirement. And on that Retire Ready call, we were able to just start to ease some of her concerns that no one's ever going to be able to help me map this out. I'm never going to have confidence to be able to retire. She started saying, hey, I feel so much better about this just in a few days of starting to talk with Merkle Retirement Planning than she'd had in decades prior, because nobody was talking to her about these things.
And that's so cool, because within a 20-minute phone call, you were able to put answers around some of the questions that she's really had for a long period of time that she hasn't been able to find answers to. And they were custom answers to her situation. But then one of the hardest parts about retirement planning is, how do you start? How do you get started with your plan? And through the Retire Ready call, it can be an effective avenue for you to get started with your custom retirement plan. And that's exactly what happened in this case. Had meaningful answers, but also was able to get her plan started.
Yeah, for
Yep.
sure.
And I think about the power of the email, the One Big Beautiful Bill conversation that we've had with the families and individuals we work with. They could apply it to them. And I think that's exactly what people can do in a Retire Ready call. You can apply information to you, your situation, and your retirement vision. You can go to retirereadycall.com to schedule your call today. This is Retiring Today, and we thank you for watching. If you like this video, click here for more great content. Don't forget to subscribe to be connected with others just like you who are looking for engaging and entertaining retirement strategies.